All right, I'm doing a couple examples from chapter 4. The first one is exercise 4-13, where you're finding variable fixed contribution margin. So the first one wants you to calculate the total variable cost per unit. So in finding the variable cost per unit, I need to figure out what my direct materials are per unit, which is 30. I also need my direct labor per helmet, which is 8. Variable factory overhead, which is 4. And then I have my selling expense, my variable selling expense, and that's 3. So when I add that together, that's my total variable cost. Of $45. Now the next part wants us to find the total fixed expense. And that's going to be our fixed factory overhead of $20,000. And then we also have the fixed selling and admin expense. So selling and admin, and that is $29,500. So total fixed expense is $49,500. And then finally, they want us to do a contribution margin income statement. So I'm going to do my sales. And my sales is going to be, we're selling it for $75 each times 5,000. And then I'm going to take my variable cost per unit. So variable cost per unit. And that's going to be my 45 I just calculated times my 5,000. So that's going to give me my contribution margin. Okay, so 150,000 is what I have left after I've paid for whatever it is I'm selling, helmets in this case. And then I have a total fixed cost of 49,500. So that's going to give me operating income of 100,500. You can also do that per unit. So if your variable cost per unit is 45 and your sales per unit is 75, your contribution margin is going to be 30. Okay, so you can do it either way. The next one is 14, which is your break even. And this is pretty important. So your plan to sell 5,000 bicycle helmets at $75 each. Unit variable cost is $45 already calculated. Fixed cost is 49,500, which we already calculated as well. So to find our break even, scroll down a little bit here. So break even, we are going to take our total fixed cost over our price minus our variable cost per unit per unit, or our contribution margin. So our total fixed cost in this case is 49,500. We're going to divide that by our contribution margin, which is 30, or $75 minus $45. So we want it per unit. So 30, and when I do that, that means that our break even is 1,650 helmets. We need to sell 1,650 helmets in order to break even. The book also wants you to check this by doing a contribution margin income statement. So let's go ahead and check ourselves that way. So we have sales, and this is, we're assuming 1,650 helmets, and we're just going to make sure that our operating income is 0 at this point. It's not positive or negative. So we're selling them at $75 a piece, and we're checking ourselves at 1,650. And then we have variable cost per unit. And that's 45 times our 1650. And then we have our fixed cost, which is 49,500. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and subtract our variable cost and our fixed cost. And it's 0. So we know that our break even is correct here. The next one I'm doing is exercise 4-15, and that's where we're finding the variable cost ratio and the contribution margin ratio. So we're planning, excuse me, again to sell 5,000 bicycles helmets at $75 each, same variable cost and same fixed cost. So let's go ahead and calculate the variable cost ratio. And the formula for that is going to be our variable cost per unit. So in this case, our variable cost per unit is 45 divided by the price, which is 75. So our variable cost ratio is 0.6 or 60%. So that means that we have 60% left after our cost has been paid for. So then we have our contribution margin ratio, which is the next one. And our contribution margin ratio is our price minus our variable cost per unit, or the contribution margin, divided by our price. So contribution margin is 30 divided by our price, which is 75. So that leaves us with 0.4 or 40%. All right, so, and I think I might have said that variable cost ratio is what we have left. It was the cost. So it costs us 60% of our total price to make these helmets, and then what's left over is 40%. So sorry about that. Okay, the next one is going to be, we're going to sort of check ourselves with the contribution margin income statement. So I've got sales of 75 per helmet times the 5,000 we plan on selling. And then I've got our variable cost, and that is going to be our $45 per helmet times the 5,000 that we're selling. So we have our contribution margin. Here of 150,000, and then we have our fixed cost. We did do this, but now we're going to go ahead and do our percentages. And that was 49,500. So our operating income is, again, 100,500. So our percentage of sales, so sales is going to be 100%. And then our variable cost is, we're just going to do this divided by this, which is 0.6. That's the same ratio we got before. And then our contribution margin is this divided by our total sales, so 0.4. So that is the same ratio that we got up here as sort of a check to ourselves. All right, so the next one, which is 4-16, we're going to find the break-even point in dollars. So we did before the break-even in units, the number of helmets that we have to sell. So we can also do that in dollars. Now, you can always take the units that you have to sell and multiply it by how many or how much you're selling them for. That's one way to do it. But the other way to do it is to take your total fixed cost, which in this case was 49,500, and you're going to divide it by your contribution margin ratio, which was 0.4. So we would have to sell 123,750 to break even. And we're going to go ahead and check ourselves with that. So we have sales, again, of, if we were to check ourselves, 123,700, variable cost, and we're going to take 123,750 and multiply it by 0.6, because we know that 60% of our total sales goes to variable costs. So our contribution margin is 49,500, coincidentally exactly the same amount as our fixed cost. So our operating income is 0. So we know that that is in fact our break-even point. So the next one, which is 4-17, is our units to earn target income. So in a business, we don't typically want to just break even. We want to earn an income, and usually there's a minimum amount of income that we want to earn. So in this case, on 417, we said that we want to earn a minimum income of 81,900. So you're going to treat that exactly the same as a fixed cost in this case to figure out how many you need to sell or how much revenue you need to earn in order to make that operating income. So in this case, what we're going to do is go ahead and add our fixed cost and our target income together. So 49,500 plus our 81,900 of income that we would like. So we're going to treat that 131,400 like it's fixed income in as far as our break-even formula. So we have that. We're going to go ahead and divide that by our contribution margin, which is 30. So we would have to sell 4,380 helmets in order to earn that $81,900 income. So in order to check ourselves, let's go ahead and do a little contribution margin income statement. So 75 times 4380. And then we have variable cost per unit. And 4380 times 45. So our contribution margin is here, 131,400. And that's the same number that we came up with when we added the fixed cost and our income that we would like together, but let's just check it again. So then we have fixed cost that we had to subtract out, which was 49,500. And we're left with the income that we would like. Okay, I'm going to move on to 419, which is the break-even point for multiple products. So in this case, we have bicycle helmets and motorcycle helmets. So I'm going to have bike helmets, and that price is 75, and then motorcycle helmets, and that price is 220. Our variable cost per unit is going to be 45 for the bicycle helmet and 140 for the motorcycle helmet. So our contribution margin is here. So contribution margin, and then our sales mix, they said, was 5-2. So 5 bicycle helmets to 2 motorcycle helmets. So our contribution margin sales package is, excuse me, we're just going to multiply our 5 that we're selling times the contribution margin, and we're going to multiply our 2 of our motorcycle helmets times the $80 contribution margin. So our total contribution margin here is going to be 310 for our package, okay? So when we want to do the fixed cost here, I'm sort of running out of time on this video, but our total fixed cost is 58,900. We're going to go ahead and divide that by our 310. And that's going to give us 190. We have to sell 190 packages, which means each package contains 5 bike helmets and 2 motorcycle helmets.